Hey, what is up, YouTube and subscribers? Real quick, I'm gonna show you a video on some of the no start diagnosis issues that are really simple to see, and some of the basic stuff that a lot of you guys miss. So let's go ahead and get started. So now this is on the Holly Terminator X, and it probably applies to like all the computer systems, but I'm gonna show you a few things to look for when you're diagnosing a no start issue. But first, let's go over what a no crank is and what a no start is. All right, guys, so if I have everything hooked up, I have my battery hooked up, I have the power cables hooked up, I have everything hooked up, and I'm ready to start it. And my vehicle does this. This is a no crank, all right? This means the engine's not even cranking. Now, like I discussed before, the cranking circuit is completely different than the actual engine harness and computer itself. So you can actually have the entire Terminator X unplugged. You can have the computer harness completely removed from the engine. You can have the computer completely removed, and you should be able to still crank the engine if your starter wire is hooked up and you have your main battery cables hooked up. So for all the subscribers that missed it, this is the video that I posted on the LSWAP SD Instagram subscriber section, and this one is the one that's going to show you that you don't need a computer hooked up for it to crank over. What's up, subscribers? So real quick video just to show you guys that the cranking circuit is completely different from the Terminator X. You can see here the Terminator X is completely unhooked. The entire harness is there. Now we're gonna go ahead and crank it. So as you can see, the cranking circuit is completely separate from the Terminator X or any kind of computer system for the engine. So if you have a no crank issue, it's not related to anything engine related. All right, so now we're gonna go over a crank no start. That means the engine's actually turning over. It's cranking, aka turning over, but it's not starting. So this is what it'll sound like. So you can hear the engine trying to start. It's turning over, but it's not cranking. So if you have everything hooked up for your if you have only your battery, your starting circuit hooked up, that means a purple wire going to your starter, you can have all that removed and it'll still crank and turn over like that. That has nothing to do with a no start circuit. So as you can see, our issue here is the actual engine starting. So I'm gonna show you real quick what I noticed. All right, so if we look at a battery, you can see we have 12 volts going to our battery, right? So the battery you think is good. A regular fully charged battery will have 12.68 volts. So to me, that battery is a little bit low. Now, when you heard me crank it over, it sounded really good, right? It was cranking over pretty easily. It was turning. But one thing I noticed right off the bat is this screen here, when I have it set up, when I have it turned on, key on, come on, baby. So when I have it turned on, whenever I crank it, there should be enough battery voltage that does not shut off. So let me show you what happens and what I noticed. So when we go to crank it, so you see how that rebooted? That could be two things. That could be if you crank it and this whole screen goes blank, that means your key on cranking power, the one you have your red and white wire hooked up to, or on your OEM computers, you should still have a key on cranking wire that's supposed to get 12 volts power when it's cranking and when it's off. That could mean that the wire is not hooked up to a key on cranking source. So it has 12 volts now when the key is on, but when we crank it, it loses at 12 volts. Now on this vehicle, I know that's not the case because the wire that we're hooked up to for the key on cranking, without the starter hooked up, I make sure I checked it and it had 12 volts with the key on. When I turned it full all the way to crank, it still had 12 volts. So we know that's not the issue, guys. So what else would cause this to die down, everything to go black when I'm cranking it? Put on your thinking caps, guys. I know you guys are subscribers. Some of you have been around for a while, so I'm hoping right off the bat you guys can figure it out. So if you guys haven't figured it out yet, I'll give you guys a hint. This is part off a relay, right? So we have a relay in the harness. Even if you have an aftermarket computer, or if you're using the OEM computer, it doesn't matter. All your key on power is going to be hooked up to a relay. So that relay will get, as soon as you turn on key on power, that relay comes on and it gives power to all your sensors, to your gauges, to everything else that's hooked up to that key on power source. So the issue is that relay itself needs, it's a 12 volt relay, but in reality, it needs at least 9 volts to stay closed. So if it gets too little voltage, it's not enough to, because it has coils in there that the voltage turns into magnetic field. That magnetic field is what keeps it closed. So if you don't have enough voltage going to that relay, it's going to eventually open up. So our issue here is that when we crank it, I'm going to show you the battery voltage there when I'm cranking. Here, let's go ahead and focus on that. So when we're cranking, the battery voltage is dropping so low because it's working on turning the starter over that the relays disengage. So when the relays disengage, that means you're no longer getting power to your coils, your sensors, this LCD screen, obviously, and your fuel pump and stuff like that. So here, let's go ahead and crank it again and check out the battery voltage. Right there, it almost wanted to start because once it hit 9 volts, the relay kicked back in. So if the voltage stays above 9.5 volts, maybe like around 10, we're gonna be good. I guarantee you it's gonna start. But because it drops down too low, all the relays that hold everything closed, they're disengaging, so we're losing power to everything else. So what we're gonna do to fix this is we're gonna go ahead and put the battery charger on the battery, charge it up for maybe like about 30-40 minutes, and then we're gonna try it again. We're gonna check battery voltage to see if that stays up, and we're gonna see if this screen stays on when we're cranking it. So that was to me, it was a dead giveaway as to why it wasn't starting, because as soon as I crank it, this would shut off. It would go completely blank because it was losing power. So I'm like, huh, that's weird. So based off of what I know, I'm like, all right, I think the battery voltage is low. Let me check it. Boom, right off the bat, battery voltage drops too low. So I'm gonna go ahead and charge this, and then we'll see what the difference is. Now that's why I tell you guys a lot of times when you guys are having issues in the subscriber chat, I always tell you guys, send me a video of what you're doing. Send me a video, because some of the things like this here turning off, you guys might not catch. But now that you're seeing this video, hopefully in the future it makes sense to you guys. But if I see this video and I see you guys doing that, I'm like, okay, right off the bat, put a battery or check the battery voltage while it's cranking. You guys tell me, hey, it drops down to like 8 volts. I'm like, hey, that's not enough. Even though it sounds like it's cranking really good, it's turning over really fast, the battery voltage is just too low for those relays. So let's go ahead and charge this battery and see what happens. All right, guys, so you can see here, the battery chargers say that the battery is around 60%. So that's 60% as it sits. Now, obviously, when we crank it, it probably drops down to like 30% capacity. So we're gonna go ahead and throw on 15 amps. This one has a remote battery, which is in the trunk. So we're gonna go ahead and connect to the power, our main power stud that's there. If you can't get to that, you could connect to your power on your alternator, because that alternator is probably gonna push out more than 100 amps. So that wire should be good enough to handle the small 15 amps here. So we're gonna go ahead and charge it. Try to get up to about 70%, and then we should be able to start it. All right, so another thing I forgot to mention is if you guys want, if you think the battery is low, you could always put a jumper pack on it or hook up the battery to another battery or another vehicle and jump in like that if you don't have a battery charger. But since we have a battery charger and we don't want to go crazy, we'll put up another vehicle or trying to jump start it, and it's hard to get in there to get a jumper pack. We're gonna go ahead and charge it, and it looks like we're at 80% capacity. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this battery charger off and give it a try. All right, so we are at 12.77 volts. Anytime you get over 12.68 volts, that indicates that there's like a surface charge. So basically the battery was being charged, and then once we crank it, it's gonna drop below that. But also you guys are witnessing first crank of this engine. But since I had the issue, I'm like, you know what? I better whip out the camera and do a video on this, because it doesn't happen all the time. I usually don't have problems. But this vehicle's been sitting for a few months, and the battery drained a little bit because I put oil in the oil pump on the side to top it off, and then I cranked it over a few times to get the oil pressure up, and then I'm going to start it, and I'm like, oh crap, it's not starting, which is weird. But now let's go ahead and start it. See, now I dropped down to 12.67 volts. We're gonna go ahead and look at that, check the voltage when it starts. 12.3. Let's see if it stays above 10. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and look at this screen here. Like I said, guys, this is initial start, so it might take a while for it to start. But one thing you're gonna notice is that screen didn't die. So check this out. So that battery voltage is a little bit low. It's right under 9. That might not be enough to start it. So let's go ahead and charge the battery a little bit more, and then we'll give it a shot. All right, guys, we're at around 80% again. I just finished up installing the vapor trapper. I'll make a separate video on that. So that I'm finished installing it. We got a little bit of daylight. Let's go ahead and try to start it again, see what happens. All right, let me go ahead and start my multimeter again because it shuts off when it sits too long. All right, so we are at 14 volts. So now we know that we definitely charged the crap out of the battery, even though it's probably gonna drop down to like 12.6 again. So again, guys, one of the things that I noticed was this was shutting off when I try to start it. So you'll notice now when we crank it, it's not gonna shut off anymore. And while I was back there, I also adjusted the fuel pressure, so it should be a little bit higher. But so if you guys ever have an issue where you're cranking it doesn't start and the screen's going blank, it's either, it could be also a bad ground, could be a low battery, could be a voltage issue, something like that. But that right off the bat tells you kind of where to look at. So let's go ahead and try it out. This will be the first start if it starts. Come on, baby. Oh, there it goes. Oh shit. All right. So you saw that this should have stayed on, but you kind of saw how it jumped. Also, guys, don't be nervous on the first start. It's always gonna do weird shit. One thing we want to look at is our oil pressure. This is a drive-by wire throttle body, so it's gonna be we don't have to worry about just not under control. But also, whenever you first start it, as soon as you start it, you want to go make sure all your liquids are good, you're not leaking anything. So that's what I'm gonna do next. But real quick, guys, I just want to show you guys how I go about diagnosing a no start issue. Again, if you're seeing this and you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to my Instagram page where I help you guys fix stuff, and I do a ton of videos like this all the time. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.